Hey, it's Rob. I'm going to show you how to do a paired samples t-test in SPSS. It's pretty simple. We've got our data on the left side and I've got room for output on the right. Basically what we're going to do, I'm using the data from the PowerPoint if you want to give that a look. So on the left side, we have each participant's before Thanksgiving weight. And then on the second column, we have their after Thanksgiving weights. So notice that each participant gets their own row and they each have a score for before Thanksgiving and after Thanksgiving. So there's participant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all you need to do is head to Analyze up here on the top, and then we're going to compare means. And we'll head down to Paired Samples t-test. And I was testing this earlier, so I'll actually get rid of this. This is what it's going to look like. And what you want to do is select your first variable and just hit this arrow and it'll move it over into variable 1. So again, this is what it'll look like at the beginning. Select your first variable, in this case it's before, and we're going to just move it over. You don't have to have anything selected on this side. And then it's going to automatically highlight variable 2 for pair 1. In that case, just select the second measurement. In our case, it's after Thanksgiving, and then just hit the arrow. So it's going to look kind of like this. It's kind of going to look like if you were to write this out, this is basically our x1 or score at time 1 column, and this is our x2 column or time 2 column. So there's nothing you need to do in the options. So after that happens, just hit OK, and it's going to run the test for you on the right side. So what we're looking for, we've got our n value here, so we can see that we have 5 participants. Correlation between the two, I guess it does correlation automatically, which is kind of interesting. And there is also a significance for the correlation. We don't need to look at that, though. I just wanted to let you know that that was there. The important thing is this bottom one, the one that the arrow is pointing at right now. It's going to be labeled paired samples t-test. So notice here, the mean is negative 4.4, which is what we found in class. The mean difference, I believe. I should check on that real quick. Yeah, negative 4.4 was our mean difference. Sorry about that. There we go. So that's reflected here. Standard deviation here, you don't need that, don't need standard error of the mean, but do notice that we found these values when we did the equation by hand. We found the standard error of the mean. Before that, we found the standard deviation. So that's all very cool. The numbers that we need are this t-value, first of all. In this case, it's negative 3.92, which I think by hand we found like a negative 3.93, which if you account for rounding and stuff like that, that's close enough. We got our degrees of freedom, which is our number of participants, 5 minus 1. So we've got 4 degrees of freedom, and here's our significance. This is our p-value. So in this case, for a two-tailed test, p equals 0.017. That's for a two-tailed test, and I forgot to tell you this in the previous video, and this is important. If you're doing a one-tailed test, you need to divide this value by 2, and that will be your p-value if you're doing a one-tailed test. So again, if you're doing a two-tailed test, this is your p-value. If you're doing a one-tailed test, divide this value by 2, and that's your actual p-value. Okay, I believe that's everything. So when you report this, it would be italicized t, and in parentheses 4 and parentheses equals negative 3.92, comma, p equals 0.017, or you could say p is less than 0.05. Either one is acceptable. One more thing I think I want to mention here. Is be careful of what your hypothesis is. I was talking to a few students about this yesterday in class. Let's go back into here and where is it? I'm sorry, it's still a little bit early. Let's go to compare means like we're supposed to, and then back to paired samples. Okay, so if we move these back over, we can actually do this the other way around. Since we're hypothesizing that the after scores are going to be greater than the before scores, remember, we're hypothesizing that people are going to weigh more after Thanksgiving. You might not remember because that was days ago, but that's okay. You can actually put after in first and before in second. And all that's going to change is the negatives turn to positives. All down here. So compare this one to this one, the one at the very bottom of the screen. All the negatives turn to positives, and that's completely okay. The reason I point this out is because you want to be careful about what your hypothesis is, and you want to make sure that that matches what your t-value is. So if you're hypothesizing that time 2 or after is going to be greater than time 1 or before, then if you think about it, if time 2 is greater than time 1, then if you subtract time 2 minus time 1, you should get a positive number. And that's what we got here. Similarly, if we go back up here, where we subtracted time 1 minus time 2, we got a negative number. I know that might be a little bit confusing, but try running it a few times and changing your hypotheses and just kind of mess with your numbers and play around with it. It's okay to play around with SPSS. It won't yell at you. Well, it might, but it's not going to be anything serious. It's not a program you can break. So mess around with that. If you have any questions, please let me know. That was Paired Samples t-test.